you guys? What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. I don't know what to say after that. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, Lambda School for Idiots. That's my channel. This is my journey, and today we're gonna do the craziest thing ever. We're gonna look at my project. That's the air horns. Alright, let's dive right in. Okay, everybody, so today was Friday, which means it is the Sprint Challenge day. So what that entails, I may have said this before, right first thing in the morning, everybody's waiting for the team leads to drop the link to the repo for the Sprint Challenge. At that point, we are allowed to clone it, or fork it, then clone it, and start diving onto it. So what did that look like? Today we had our design files. Should have had these open beforehand, but let's look at them. Okay, so the desktop design file was to look like this. Pretty straight. And then the mobile design file was to look like this. Also pretty straightforward. You can see that there's some display nones that we're gonna have to do, some column reverse that we're gonna have to do, some button styling that we're gonna have to do. But overall, pretty straightforward. So this is what they started off with us. So we got most of the content, but we needed to make it look obviously like the design files. So let me check out the branch that had all the stuff on it. Of course, I can't type. Check out stretch goals. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so once we check that out, we'll reload this, and voila, we've got our wonderful looking site, which is exactly what we look for. So a couple of we added in as part of the stretch goals were a fixed nav bar at the top with a light and dark, as well as a subscribe form. With that being said, if you look here, you can see what it is that I had done in order to get this in. So we had our mix-ins here, which were less mix-ins that we had to use, as well as variables that were there as well, and let me see if I can pull up the variables here. So one of the other variables using interpolation is the Challange phone for media queries. So all of this basically in this past week. Pretty straightforward in what we learned over the past week and applying it to this project. So overall, pretty good project, or a sprint challenge. So really that's all I had on the sprint challenge. Moving forward to next week, we start JavaScript, which is going to be, I think it's going to be pretty easy. I've worked with React and React Native before, so I feel like I've got a little bit of a leg up, but they did give us a couple of resources, one of them being Code Wars, which is something I think is interesting. I remember that I had an account from like 3 years ago, so I was kind of diving back into that. If you've got trouble with arrays, this short little video here is pretty good. I'll link this in the description. And then Eloquent.js. This actually is an extremely well-documented PDF, all online, totally free, about how JavaScript is working really under the hood and how these functions, arrays, and methods are working together to actually produce what it is that you're looking at. So highly, if you're just getting into JavaScript, I would probably start here because, well, this actually might be a little more advanced. It might actually be best to have the better understanding of being able to push buttons and make things work, and then dive into this because it's really robust and kind of dry, but really good reading. So nonetheless, Eloquent.js is another resource going into next week. So a final update on the all the job sites project that I've been working on. My first thought, and I think I might have mentioned this before, but is doing a Chrome extension. So I want to press a button, I want to save the job, and I want to save it into the profile. So I'm like, okay, let me just go play around with some Chrome extensions, see how these bad boys work. Chrome's documentation is garbage at best, and it is so frustrating reading it. So I watched a couple of videos and was able to kind of get something together. So I was looking into some Chrome extension stuff, And the first place that I started was with actually some of these sample extensions. So everything's built off of these manifest files that Chrome requires, and then you can have pop-ups and icons and whatnot. And so one of the samples was this bookmarks one, which actually pulls out all of your bookmarks, which is actually pretty cool. So these are all the bookmarks that I have in my bookmarks folder. I added in a terribly ugly, as you can see, style sheet to that to try to make it look better, but actually really interesting. And then the other one, and I'll link it in the description as well, is for the Code Train. Interesting name, but he's a really fun and energetic kind of guy that explains how Chrome extensions work. He's got a video series on that, so I would highly recommend that. Well, I think that's all that I've got for you guys today. Nothing else is kind of coming up to mind. It was a pretty straightforward project for the day. Looking forward to getting into some of the JavaScript stuff. Last little bit. I have been really getting into, for some odd reason, French hits in French pop. So I will include this mix here, if it will let me attach it. Good background music. Very energetic and fun to listen to, especially if it's really loud. But with that, I will see you guys next week with some more Lambda School updates. And if you haven't, like and subscribe. I'll see you next week.